are like, oh my goodness, what does component two even mean? Are you a number two where I know what component two involves, but I haven't committed to doing it yet? Are you a number three? I've already started working on component two. Oh, this is awesome. I saw lots of ones. I see some folks who know a little bit about it. I see some folks who've already started working. So we've got a wide range of people. Beautiful. All right. Well, hopefully, if you are a one, you will have a better understanding of what C2 even means. In education, we love an acronym. So C2 is component two. And then if you know what it involves and you haven't committed yet, hopefully by the end of the session, you'll be like, oh, yeah, I got this in the bag. So here we go with component two. So big picture on National Board Certification, it's all about being an accomplished teacher, right? And we're just providing evidence for that. If you are here and showing up at boot camp, you are demonstrating that you are already going above and beyond, okay? And so National Board Writing is all about just reflecting on what you do in the classroom and why you do it in the classroom, and how you did it and what did it do to benefit the children, right? And then we focus on demonstrating student learning, right? How do you do that? And again, component two is all about what we do every single day. National Board just wants us to write about it, right? And show why we make the decisions that we do when we're teaching. And then National Board Certification aligns with professional standards. So National Board has its own standards, as well as your certificate specific standards. So we'll talk a little bit about the differences there and where to find that as well. Just another visual here. National Board Certification, just the process. It starts with knowledge, okay? It's all about knowing your students and what they need, and then we plan, okay? So you know your students, and then you make a plan for them. And it's a matter of what your students need at that time of instruction, right? So we know them, we plan for them, and then we teach. Okay, what decisions do you make to teach during that time? And then we reflect. National Board is all about reflecting. I remember when I was going through the process in 2020, I was like, I mean, gosh, have I reflected enough? But it's like constantly reflection, 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 reflection. And what changes would you make and why would you change it? National Board is not looking for the perfect teacher. It is looking for somebody who can reflect on what they did and make adjustments to benefit the children, right? So this national board process is all about the knowledge, the planning, the teaching, and then the reflection. So national board is composed of four components. Okay, so you've got component one, which is all about content knowledge. All right, and then those percentages. That's just like a brief overview, okay? But the percentage is amount of the score total. Okay, so component one is 40% of your score, your overall score. And so that's the content knowledge piece. Component two, which we're talking about in this session right now, is worth 15% of your overall score. And it's all about differentiation and instruction. Okay. How do you teach the students that you have in your time in the year that you're doing this? And then component three consists of 30% of your overall national board score. And that's about the teaching, practice, and learning environment. Okay, and then component four is also worth 15%, and that's all about the effective and reflective practitioner that you have. So we are focusing on component two in this one, and that's all about differentiation in instruction. All right, so let's talk a little bit about differentiation. What is it? Okay, what is it not, and what does it look like? So I invite anybody to come off mute or share in the chat here. But what is differentiation? Okay, what is it not? And you can share any or all of them, and what might it look like? So throw that in the chat or somebody come off mute. What is differentiation?
Helping provide the kids what they particularly need as opposed to everybody.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Lee. So providing whatever that child needs in that time, right? Abby's saying adjusting in order to meet everybody's needs, the individual needs of students, um, adjusting instruction, adapting instruction, adjusting in order to meet everyone's needs, making the content accessible to individual students, right? Making learning accessible to all. When I think about differentiation, what's it's almost like I don't know if y'all seen the visual, but it's differentiation is not always what is it? It's equitable versus fair, right? And so we're going to look at an example really quick right here because this just tickles. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's read this and then we'll talk about a real life example. So take a moment and just read over that quote there. So this book is a great resource if you want to add it to your Amazon cart for this component. But y'all, it was published in 1999 and it is still relevant today, right? Because we have this one classroom and we've got students who come in from different backgrounds, from have different experiences, they have different knowledge developmental levels, right? I am my day job. I work in the world of pre-K with the Department of Early Childhood Education. And when you walk into a pre-K classroom, I mean, you might have a child who's been with grandma, right? And has never had school experience and might not know what their name is. And then you might have a child who's had preschool experience and knows how to read, right? So differentiation is all about how can you help each individual child based on their background experiences and their readiness and their interest levels, right? And how do we ensure that the standards we teach can be successful for all children? So, what does this look like in the real life? Okay. So, just to get our brains thinking. So let's pretend that you are about to teach somebody how to make a peanut butter jelly sandwich. Okay. How to make a peanut butter and jelly. Okay. Now, you've got four different students here. The first one has never made a sandwich before. Okay. The second one is somebody who has a peanut allergy. The third student is someone who already knows how to make this sandwich and they're just going to be bored. Okay. And then the fourth one is somebody who doesn't speak English fluently, right? So, how would you do that? If you are about to teach somebody how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich who's never made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich before, like you've got to adapt that versus somebody who has a peanut allergy, right? Or what if you're speaking and teaching somebody and they speak a different language than you? Right? So that's just an example of how have we got to adapt our instruction to meet the same goal. Okay. And then I'm gonna say here's another one. So let's pretend you're teaching somebody how to drive. I have a good colleague, friend who is her daughter just got her 16 year old license, so just got her driver's license. Okay. So imagine this. You're teaching somebody how to drive for the first time. Okay, these are your four students. They're a nervous first time driver. Okay. What if somebody's driven a tractor? Excuse the mistake there, but what if somebody's driven a tractor for years? Okay. How do you teach them how to drive a car? What if somebody is limited with their eye vision? And then what if you have a student who learns best by watching before they try? Right? So when we think about differentiation, we've got our students who all have different needs, all have different backgrounds. How do we differentiate instruction to ensure that our goals, the standards are still being met. Okay. So let's think through this. So pull out your phones, scan that QR code, and it's going to pull up a Padlet. Okay. And I want us to think about what this looks like in your classroom. Okay. So imagine you're teaching the same standard or objective, and you want to ensure that all children reach that goal. However, how do you differentiate instruction for these children? So those different types of learners there, those are just to spark your thinking there. But how do you differentiate instruction if they're an English learner, English speaking learner? Okay. How do you differentiate in instruction if they're already advanced? What if they struggle with engagement? What do you do for children who always finish those activities really, really early before anybody else, right? You know what I'm talking about. What if you have a child with anxiety, right? What do you do if children who love hands-on activities or they read before grade below grade level? Or what if they have ADHD um, and don't have any support with that, right? But how do you support these children? How do you differentiate instruction for the children in your classroom, and what does that look like? Okay, so I'm going to take about 1 to 2 minutes here, let you scan that, and then we'll look at the different ways that come to mind for how you differentiate content, the process of learning, or what type of assessments can you do to meet learners where they are. These are awesome, y'all. Go, let's give another about 30 seconds and then we'll look at the Padlet all together. Oh, Nadia, I'm catching up in the chat. All of those are great ideas to add to our Padlet too. Um, leveling different small groups, offering choice boards. All right. Wow, look at this. And this is going to be something that y'all can come back to as well. So if I'm looking at this Padlet, these are all the ways, right, that you've shared how you can differentiate instruction based on your individual students. I love that y'all have already put in, like, for English learners, you can do this, right? For advanced learners, you can do this. Early finishers, you can do this. So what I'm going to do with your responses is categorize them. And then when you access this, Natalie, correct me if I'm wrong, but they'll be able to access the slide deck. And so you can scan the QR code and I will have this organized for you. So you will have the different ideas here. So if you're, stuck in the classroom, you're like, oh my goodness, how can I differentiate for somebody who's always finishing early, right? I'll make a column where you can come back and look at what everybody has shared. So this is good stuff. Ways to differentiate instruction over here. Proximity to the teacher, right? Having them close by us. Think about those students who you've got to have maybe a touch on to redirect constantly to maintain focus. Partnering with their peers, offering visuals, right? Front loading vocabulary before the lessons start, including movement, right? Y'all can imagine those students who are constantly moving or fidgeting. What can we do to support them? Um, Interactive lessons, frequent movement breaks, hands-on activities, giving choices, right? How can you differentiate with technology, connect lessons to their interests, make real life connections? All of those are ways that you can differentiate instruction. And these are the ways that you're doing them already, right? So national boards is just looking at in this component, what do you offer for the child, right? Why are you offering that? And were they able to succeed? And if not, it's okay. You take a moment to reflect, right, on what you might have done, what you might do differently. All right, and so let's go back to our presentation here. So, what are we actually doing with component two? Okay. So, oh, again, it is 15% of our score in all. Okay. So, it is a classroom-based portfolio entry, and you are teaching a unit, okay, to an entire class. All right. And National Board puts out definitions of units for each certificate area in your specific component instructions. Okay. And we'll take a look at that in a few minutes. But it's just compiled of a series of lessons focusing on a selected content or theme. So you are making a plan, okay, and you are implementing engaging and appropriate lessons, all right, for those children at that time. And then you're going to collect student work samples. Okay. So you're collecting those work samples within that unit. And I'm going to tell you collect all the things and keep them, right? You're going to become a hoarder on student work samples, right? And then you're going to modify your instruction. You're going to modify those strategies and materials to meet the students based on that ongoing assessment, ongoing instruction time period during that unit. Okay. And again, the length of the time is going to vary between certificate areas. So we will dive into your specific instructions in a minute and figure out what your time period consists of for this unit. Okay. And then you're going to submit work samples. So you will submit an amount of work samples, and that's going to differ for each certificate area too. If you are music, I don't remember seeing anybody share that they're music in the chat earlier before we getting started, but that will be a video. Okay, but everybody else, it is a tangible work sample. Okay, and then remember, this is for your students at this time in this setting. All right, and then I am finicky on this today. So you're going to plan and implement engaging and appropriate lessons, okay, within a unit. You're going to analyze work samples, modify strategies. You're going to submit those work samples as part of your evidence, and then you're going to have a written commentary. And that written commentary is all about analyzing what you did, why you did it, those student work samples, and the adjustments you made during that period of time, okay? And then you're going to reflect. Okay, National Board's all about reflecting. And again, component two isn't based on, like, your score is not based on how well your students did, okay, how much they improved. It's just resulting in your ability to analyze the student work samples, okay, make planning adjustments. And so you're just writing about that, right? Okay, so in the national board world, you are going to see this picture a lot. Okay, so the helix here is the architecture of accomplished teaching. Okay. It is tightly woven. So imagine that one strand are the teachers. So it's you, the teacher. And then the other strand are your students, right? And so the tighter that helix is, the stronger your implementation is going to be. Okay. So within that AAT, again, an acronym, but the architecture of accomplished teaching, you have your steps. So first is you've got to know your students. Okay. Who are they? Where are they now? What do they need? And where should I begin? Okay. And then the second part of that helix is you've got to set some goals that are appropriate for those students. Okay. Then you've got to, number three, implement those instructional activities based on those goals. Okay. Then you've got to evaluate the student learning. Okay. Then you've got to reflect and determine what needs to be done to continue to support those children with those goals. And then you've got to set new high expectations or goals, set new goals for those children at that time. Okay. So that's the AAT. And everything you do as an accomplished teacher, a national board certified teacher, is rounded within that. The step, the process. Remember, you've got to know, you've got to plan, you reflect, and then you keep going, you adjust. Okay. So that's the architecture of accomplished teaching. And then you've got the five core propositions. Dr. Shields mentioned this briefly a little bit in her welcoming, her opening, but five core propositions. This is what National Board lives by. There's five, okay? The first one is teachers are committed to students and their learning, okay? The second one is teachers know the subjects that they teach and how to teach those to students. The third one is teachers are responsible for managing and monitoring their student learning, right? So those assessments, the student work samples. The fourth one is teachers think systematically about their practices and learn from their experiences. And then teachers are committed to learning communities. All right. So when we look at component two, it's looking at four different parts. Okay. We're looking at how do we meet our students' needs? How do we plan engaging and appropriate lessons? How do we analyze student work? And how do we modify instruction? Okay. So if we're looking at meet student needs, will somebody throw in the chat or come off of mute and tell us where do we find meet student needs in the AAT or the five core propositions? Yes, right. So meeting students' needs is knowing your students. It's the first one. You're exactly right. So within that first core proposition, and then the first and possibly the second, right, portion of that AAT, that architecture of accomplished teaching, right? You've got to know your students and you've got to set high, worthwhile goals for those students. Okay. All right, wonderful. So if I'm looking at the second part of what component two is offering, it's planning, engaging, appropriate lessons. Okay. Where does that fall on the AAT or within the five core propositions? Plan, engaging, and appropriate lessons. Yes, absolutely. So if we're planning engaging in appropriate lessons, we've got to set those goals and we've got to know those students at that time, right? And then the core propositions, we've got to know the subjects that we're teaching, right? And we've got to know how to teach those students. Absolutely. All right. And then the third one is are those student work samples. How do we analyze student work? Where does that fall on the AAT or the five core propositions? Analyzing student work. Where does that fall? Yes, absolutely. So that core proposition two and three, right? We've got to know the subjects, so we got to know how to teach them. And then we've got to analyze that. And then we've got to manage and monitor student learning within those core propositions. And y'all are exactly right. With the four, oh, who just said that? Oh my gosh, I love that. Kelsey, yes, you're making a connection there, and I'm gonna tell everybody that. Um, But on the fourth step of that AAT, right, you're evaluating student learning, and that directly correlates with analyzing that student work. Okay. And so Kelsey just noticed something. Um, and she noticed that within the AAT, you've got the color coordinated arrows, right? Y'all see that. First and second are red. Third is blue. Pink is 4 and 6. Green is 5. And then if you look to the five core propositions, they're color coordinated. Okay. So the red, the first of the core proposition goes with steps 1 and 2 of the AAT. Are y'all seeing that? The blue, the second five core proposition goes with step 3 of the AAT. Okay. So it directly correlates with the process of national boards and the five core propositions that national boards believe every teacher should be able to know and do, right? And component 2 correlates with both of these beautifully. It is directly embedded with the architecture of accomplished teaching and the five core propositions. So I wanted to show that to you because within your written commentary, this is language that you're going to want to use within your writing and reflection. Okay. So those keywords, how do you know your students? What goals did you set? How did you evaluate student learning? What instructional decisions did you make? Okay. And then how did you reflect and how did you adapt instruction to meet those needs? All right, so when we're looking at component 2, we want to know what to submit. Okay, so we talked briefly about student work. So everybody is either going to they're going to submit student work. Now it could be an assessment that students do. That's going to be um, different based on certificate areas. Okay, but ultimately you're submitting student work, so that's evidence, right? You're submitting instructional materials. Okay. And then you're going to submit written commentary. So now what we're going to do is I want you to pull up your certificate specific component 2 instructions. And if you don't know where to find that, I will show you in just a minute and drop a link in the chat as well. Natalie, if you will find that from the top, that would be wonderful. The link to the national boards where the candidate support center, if you can. If not, I can do it in a minute. So you can scan this QR code, okay? And we're going to take about 10 to 12 minutes and we're going to let you do some just work here in your certificate specific instructions for component 2. And you're going to find what standards are going to be addressed, okay? What do you need to submit? What teaching abilities do I have to show? Okay. Um, how many different work samples do I need to submit? Because that's going to be different. How long amount of time? What does the time period need to be for my unit? Okay. So we're going to dissect component 2 for your certificate area. So you can scan the QR code there. I can drop the link for this page if you would rather have that. So that's going to come first.
Allison, I think I put the link you wanted on there, but I'm not sure.
Okay, no worries. So that first link is the link to that Google Doc for component 2 analyzing. Let's see.
No, I didn't. That's my link came up first. So I put the
Oh,
homeroom for the National Board website. Is that what you were wanting?
yes.
Okay.
All right, can I put this slide up? Oh, the 4 things you're going to submit. Those are your student work samples. For some, it might be assessments. So it's one or either or, okay? And then instructional materials and then written commentary. And so as you dive into your components instructions, you're going to really dig into what you actually have to submit as well. Does anybody need me to show them how to navigate the website to find your certificate component instructions? Yes, okay. So if you go to the National Board website. Okay. If you click on certification and go to Candidate Center, so National Board website, certification tab, Candidate Center, you will scroll down and you'll find these options. First time and returning candidate resources. Okay, you'll press learn more. And then this is where you will put in your discipline area. Okay, so art, generalist, library, literacy, math, science. And then you'll choose the developmental level based on that discipline area. So, like for me, I was generalist and I did early childhood. Okay, I know a lot of you are doing literacy, so I'd go to literacy, and you've only got one developmental level there, so that's what you would choose. And then you'll pull up this component to file, and that's where it will have your instructions. So I'm going to copy this link that takes you directly to that candidate resource page, and I'll drop that. Oh, look, Natalie, you already did it. So there it is. Natalie
And
did
can you
that.
put up that QR code again and I'll get that link as well and send.
Yes. Oh, heavens. There we go. All right, so I'm going to set that timer for about 10 minutes. So dig through those certificate instructions for component two and address these on the graphic organizer there. I'm here if you need any questions or need help finding anything. And if you want to turn your cameras off for those 10 minutes, please take a break, whatever you need to do, and we'll come back and talk more about component two. Yes, Latoya, you'll have access to the presentations at boot camp. Curry, this is just for you and what you need to help understand what your component two is asking of you. Denise, yes, you can print a copy of that Google Doc. No, let me check on that for you. Vonda, if you would like to send me your email address, I can email it to you.
Thank you. It opened on the last one you sent. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you, Natalie. Okay, that's 10 minutes, but it looks like we're still working. Do you need 2 more minutes? Okay, yes. All right, keep going. Keep going. Latoya, so we are working through this graphic organizer here. And so pulling up your certificate specific component two instructions and working through where to find this information. Do you have your component two instructions?
I do have my instructions printed, but I don't have them right in front of me. But I can grab them real quick.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. No problem. So, Curry, you have a set of standards for your exceptional needs, yes. And then for component two, you're looking at what standards will be addressed. So, not all of them will be addressed in component two, but within those component two instructions for exceptional needs, it will tell you which of your exceptional needs standards will be addressed. So, Brooke, I'm looking in mine right now as far as where to help you, what page number to find that. Yes, Lee, you can work from any unit, so that time frame of that unit might be specified. Yes, perfect. Yes, you got it, Lee. So, let's see, Brooke, mine is on page 4. Selecting materials, it says within my time period, it says three distinct points in time, at least over 8 weeks. So that's going to be different for everybody, but mine is on page 4. So look around selecting materials. All right, so let's take about 1 more minute and then we'll come back together.
I posted a link to this presentation, but they have not updated the link to this year's presentation for component 2. So the link I put was the 25 presentation. So as soon as we have that updated, it will be in the program guide, but it currently has last year's presentation. So when I copied and pasted it, it was last year's presentation. So
Okay.
I will get that fixed, but you may have to go to the program as soon as we have that. So.
Yes, and I've got my email at the end, and if you just email me, I'll send it directly to anybody who needs it. All right, so let's come back and let's look at some differences that we may have. And then I'm also going to drop another link in the chat for you to save. And it has like an at a glance of each certificate area and what is being asked for component 2. So you might want to copy and paste that link and save it and look at it as well. Um, but would anybody like to share what standards within your certificate area are to be addressed in your component 2?
I'll share for literacy. And what I saw was standards 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then it skips to 10 and 11.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. So that was literacy, and I know there's a lot of folks here who would appreciate you sharing that and confirming that on their own too. So thank you. Would anybody like to share where do you find what you need to submit?
I'll share. I checked the at a glance page for library media. Um, and that just it was simpler to me to look at that.
Yes, perfect. So there are two spots that you might find this. Mine is on page 3 for generalist early childhood. There's a bolded section that says, "What do I need to submit?" And then the one that our friend just shared is there is a electronic submission at a glance towards the end, mine's on page 9, that breaks down what exactly to submit, how many files that is, what is the page links. So that's also a great reference as well. Kaylin, thank you. She said that it's page 3 for exceptional needs as well. It's where to find what to submit. All right. Would anybody please share what teaching abilities must the teacher show? Where can you find that section? What you need to show. Or what do you need to do?
Okay, I'll share again. For
Yes.
literacy, I found it on page 3.
Yes, yes. And mine is on page 3 as well. So right underneath that bolded first section of what do I need to do? And you will have yellow squared bullet points going down as far as what all do you need to showcase in your component 2. All right. Where do you find how many different work samples you need to submit? Or would anybody like to share how many you have to submit for your certificate area? So within mine, it says that I have to submit, I have different options. So some of you might have different options as well. So I have an option A and an option B. So if I choose option A, I can submit 3 samples for each child and I do 2 different students. Okay, great. You're utilizing the chat. Perfect. So Vicky, you're going to showcase 3 different students. Ashley showcasing 3. Perfect. So for mine, I had 2 students, but I was given 3 different work samples to share. Perfect. So good. Okay, y'all are finding that information. Wonderful. And then you've answered the same question, how many students you are to be represented. Perfect. And then I know we were having some trouble with, oh, literacy is 1 student. Thank you for sharing that, all of the literacy friends. Is there a specific time period for the work to take place? If so, how long is it? Were you able to find that? Generalist is 8 weeks over an 8 week time frame.
I can share. I have literacy and it's 3 weeks to 3 months.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. I see a lot of that in the chat confirmed as well. So good, 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 good. Um, okay, and this is a big one, and we'll talk about why moving forward. But what were you able to find the titles of the sections within your written commentary? Okay, I'm seeing some head nods. Good. So my titles were found on page 6, also going down to page 6 and 8. So yes, perfect. All right, moving forward. So yeah, so hopefully that gave you an opportunity to really dive into this component 2 instructions for your certificate area. And that worksheet is just for you to reference back. So use it as you please. But yes, hopefully that was helpful. All right. So let's talk about selecting your students. So you want to choose students of different needs, abilities, culture backgrounds to show how you adapt instruction differently for each child. You, again, are not scored on how well your child does. You are just looking at, your assessors are looking at how well you were able to adapt the instruction based on your student needs. So you're going to, within your written commentary, share all about that student, what those needs are, how did you find those needs, and then what did you do to adapt that instruction within that unit of time. Okay. All right. And then as far as like what do you need to start capturing? So let's pretend it's August, right? Which is crazy that it's like 2 weeks away. That's wild. But as you start, and I mean, give yourself 6 weeks to build your relationships and all that good stuff, of course. But as you start teaching your units, go ahead and start saving things. Save all of those work samples. And as you get to know your students, if you can narrow it down to maybe 5 and you save all of their things for those 5 students, as you start reflecting back and watching their growth over time based on those work samples you've saved, then you can pinpoint it down to the one that you want to feature in your writing or the 2 that you're going to feature. Okay. So National Board does recommend to start saving 5 students. So think about different backgrounds or different developmental levels, right? And so you've got a wide range of students to show from. And y'all stop me if you ever have any questions. And then keep in mind too that your students don't have to necessarily, like if you are teaching science and you teach 10 is a little dramatic, but if you teach 10 classes, right, you can use students from different classes, but it has to be teaching the same unit. Okay. So the same assignments, the same objectives, if you're teaching multiple classes. All right. Let's talk about a little, how do you select materials? Okay. So, man, why is this giving me trouble? So you want to be able to connect the resources, the materials and assessments all to the work sample or materials that you use within the lesson. So if you showcase one particular material, you want to be able to show how it connects to the instruction, the needs of the child, and the assessments as well as that particular time of unit. Okay. You want to be able to differentiate materials according to the needs of students at the time. Right. So you might want to consider staying clear of materials that are factual. So, like anything that's recall or vocabulary worksheets. But more so, think of materials that are engaging and elicit some thinking and reasoning skills. So, think about journal entries. Okay. Think about a rubric that might include a student's self-assessment. Think about some anchor charts that might supplement English and Spanish speaking students. Okay, so those are just some ideas there. You're going to want to plan a variety of tools as well. Okay, and so you'll showcase that. So if you are measuring, doing a measuring lesson, you're going to want to show lots of different tools that you maybe could be found around the house, could be found around the classroom, could be found around a grocery store or whatever that might be. But you want to plan for a variety of tools to showcase how you meet the needs of all your children. And then select resources that connect to children's background and experiences, right? So that number one of that AAT is knowing your students, right? And a lot of you talked about when we were doing the Padlet was you want to do and provide things that are of interest to your students. All right. So let's talk about getting organized. Okay. So within on the website, the National Board website, when you go to the Candidate Center and you download Component 2, it comes in a little zip file. Okay. So it comes with your instructions and then it comes with forms as well. So you will want to download those forms, okay, and save them each as a file. And you can open it up in Word or Google Docs, whatever you use, okay? And you will actually type straight into those documents. And we'll walk through those in just a minute. So you'll want to download your forms. One of these moments. So your forms for component 2, you'll have a contextual information sheet form. You'll have an instructional activities form. You'll have a student work samples form. If you have if your component or your certificate area looks at assessments, you'll have that, but it will not be a form, but it will give you instructions for that. And then you'll have written commentary instructions as well, which is not a form. So you will have 3 forms to submit for component 2. Okay. And again, those are the ones that you will just type into the brackets and we'll look at those. And then as far as one of our friends shared that she was able to get a clear picture of what to submit within the submission at a glance. So that is toward the end of your instructions. I believe, again, mine was on page 9 to 13. It will help you stay organized and what to submit. Okay. One of the best advice the best things I can say is save everything, save often, save them in all different places, right? And then when you're looking at your forms and your written commentary, like you'll go back and forth so you can have them all pulled up. I remember when I was going through my first year of my journey, I remember having my iPad pulled up with one form, my laptop pulled up with another form, and then my monitor with a written commentary, right? So like you will utilize and go back and forth between each of these pieces that you will submit. All right, so let's look at one of those forms here. So everybody will have a contextual information form, okay? And this is one where you will download the form itself and you will go ahead and you will just type straight into those brackets, okay? So every form you'll have your candidate ID number that you'll put in there. So once you get registered and have that, it will go on every form. You will just briefly identify the type of school program, what you teach. If briefly identify, when they say that, like they are just saying, put in the number, right? So grades, what grades do you teach? 9, ninth grade. Or I teach 9 through 10. Okay. Age levels. How old are those folks, right? In pre-K, I do 4-5. Okay. Number of students taught daily. How many are in each class? You are just typing in directly into those brackets. Any questions on that form? And this form might look similar to component, like if you're doing multiple components, it might be the same kind of look to component 3 and 4 for this contextual information sheet. It just might different who you're showcasing or what class you're showcasing for each component. This form is the contextual information sheet. All right. So some other key points to go for with this form is start. This is one of the things that you can start now. So tonight after dinner, I know you're going to have so much brain space. Like you can go ahead and pull up this form and just briefly identify the type of school you teach in, the type of students you teach in, the students you teach as well. This is one thing that you're going to continuously revisit because if you mention it here in this form, you're going to want to mention it a little bit in your written commentary. Okay. If you find that you have said something about your students, you serve students in a high income school in your written commentary, like you're going to want to mention that here. So you'll see hashtag consistency. Okay. Um, Another thing is if you have state or district mandated programs that you have to teach to fidelity, okay, you're going to want to mention that in this form. Like, I teach a state mandated science curriculum, okay, and so you will mention that in your form. All right, or whether it be literacy, what if you have to teach something a certain way, you'll want to mention it here. All right, let's pretend that you're writing in your written commentary and you say something about how your students are typing on their Chromebooks for this activity. Well, you're going to want to mention that on your form that your students have access to Chromebooks. Okay. So again, consistency. I was told to make sure the samples are different types. But didn't have to be related. Tina, can we come back to that one? I want to ask a little bit further questions on that one. All right. And then if you reference a hybrid class or virtual learning or challenges or opportunities, like maybe you have to teach 40 students in a classroom that's the size of a closet, right? Hopefully and praying nobody has to do that. But like you would want to put that on there because that's a huge thing that might affect your learning. So again, everything that you mentioned on your form, you're going to want to mention in your written commentary and vice versa. If it's in your written commentary, you're going to want to mention it on your form. But this form is just a quick little snapshot of your classroom, your school, and your students and what they have access to. All right. And then let's talk about the written commentary. Okay, so that was our instructional information form. Now we've got a written commentary. Okay, every certificate area is going to have a written commentary. And this is where you write all about your analysis of your work samples, analysis of your students, and why you did what you did within your instructional period. Okay. Again, there is no form for this, so you will just pull up a Word document, a blank one, or pull up a Google Doc, whatever it is that you like to use. It will just start blank, okay? And another thing that you can do right away is go ahead and put in those questions and those titles from your instructions. Okay, so everybody's written commentary will be between 11 to 15 pages, depending on your certificate area. So make sure you look exactly at how long that needs to be for you. And you will answer the questions that come from the what to include in your written commentary section. Okay, that is around page 10. So you can find that in your instructions. And some little tips here is to write the questions out. So again, that is something you can do after dinner tonight is pull up a blank document and go ahead and type out your headings and your questions for what needs to be answered for component 2. And as you're writing, use those keywords to flag evidence for your assessors. Okay. So, keywords from your standards, right? So make sure you're reading your standards for your certificate area, keywords from the 5 core propositions, keywords from what the question's actually asking, keywords from the architecture of accomplished teaching. So those types of buzzwords is what you're going to use to help flag evidence for your assessors on reading. All right, and so component 2 is looking at how you are analyzing and reasoning for your evidence, right? Um, However, on all components within your written commentary, this is the style of writing that National Board is looking for, okay? Um, as a reader, they want you to be able to describe what happened, right? They want you to be able to analyze how it went. Okay. Explain why or how you did something and then justify why you did it. So it might be something as far as like not a STEM sentence, but an example. I did blank because I knew my students needed blank, and I did it by providing blank, and this is why I did it. Okay. So you're going to describe what you did or describe what happened, analyze how you knew that, explain why you did it, and then justify your support or your choices. Okay. So this is the writing process, and there's lots of resources out there as far as like what do descriptive STEM sentences look like? What does analytical writing look like? What is how do I explain this? How do I justify this? Like there's lots of writing tips out there. If you have not heard, or even if you have heard of Bobby Faulkner, she has writing tip books as well as component 1, 2, 3, and 4 books. And Natalie, forgive me if I say this and it is not true, but I believe that your in-service centers will support you in purchasing these books for you. Okay, good. I got our thumbs up. And so if you're interested, reach out to your RIC director, and Natalie can help us find those people. And so Bobby Faulkner's books have lots of writing prompts and STEM sentences to help with this as well. So that's another resource. All right. Remember to be consistent. And when we look at the rubric, you will understand why. Okay. But if you mentioned it in one place, you're going to mention it somewhere else, right? If you, the way the slide reads, if it's here, it ought to be there. And if it's there, it ought to be here. Okay. So if it's on your form, it needs to be talked about in your planning. If it's about, your instruction materials, it needs to be on your form. Okay. So each of the things need to be connected and linked. It's all about consistency here. So for example, if you talk about a child or planning for a child with visual impairment, you're going to mention on your instructional context form that you teach a child who is visually impaired. Okay, so you will mention that in all places. All right. As far as students and how you talk about them in your commentary, you're going to like just paint a clear picture, okay? So you'll talk about the needs of your students in usually the first little portion of the written commentary. And then you're going to talk about what you did to address those students within that unit or the curriculum. And then you'll talk about the plan that you did or that you will do in the future, okay, to continue to carry that learning. So you'll talk about the need, what you did to address it, and then what you will continue to do to support the students. All right, so some more written commentary tips, okay? Um, so again, one of the first things you can do is go ahead and type out those questions in a Word document, okay? And this next one really gets people, okay? It says abandon good writing. You are not writing an APA style with research paper type professional papers, okay? Like obviously you're going to want to make sense, right? But space is of value because if they say you have 11 pages and you write 11.5, they will completely not even look at the point 0.5. Okay. So if you start thinking about contractions like because, B/C, you can write the number 5 instead of typing out FIVE. Okay. So those are the types of examples we're talking about. In national board writing, I mean, we all know those people who can just kind of fluff a paper, right? This is not what national boards is. Just answer the question. That's all they want. If they ask again, tell me about student A and where they come from. Student A's background experience is da 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 da, and move on. Okay. Again, those contractions, spacing is another thing, y'all. And I promise when you start writing, you're going to be like, oh, I remember that Allison girl. She said I could take out 2 spaces. You do not have to space out using a keyboard twice. Just use one because you're going to want to save it. Save that space. Paragraphs. It does not need to look pretty on a piece of paper. It can be one from top to bottom, right? And I know that sounds crazy if you are not used to national boards, but you're going to want all the space, okay? So some things that you can do. You can abbreviate, but you'll want to spell it out the first time. So I remember when I was first submitting, I typed the word students 100 times. So I found it the first time and then I did SS for the rest of the way. Okay, so things like that. If you name a struggle with a student or a unit that you're teaching, you'll want to tell about what exactly you're doing about it. Remember being descriptive, analytical, and reflective. Those are the writing styles that you will write. So everybody has the same general portfolio instructions that can be found on the National Board website, and those general portfolio instructions are looking at component 2, 3, and 4 altogether, but it gives examples on page 18 what those 3 types of writing looks like. Okay, and again, the sentence stems can come from Bobby Faulkner's books that your regional in-services centers have for you for free. And then you will want to address your standards, your 5 core propositions, language from the architecture of accomplished teaching, and be clear about that, right? So all those keywords, those buzzwords we talked about, you can use that language and you will want to address those standards that are component 2 is looking for in your written commentary. And then you'll want to give evidence, right? How did you do that? And some of that evidence can directly be your student work samples, or if you have assessments that you're showing, you will want to cite those. So, and we'll look at the form on how you will do that as well. I don't know if it's next, but we'll look at the form of how you do that and how you will cite that evidence in your written commentary. And there's more. Written commentary. So again, you use your headings, instructional context, and then write the questions out. First assessment or first or student work samples or student A, and then type your questions out. Unit plan, type your questions out. So you will use the headings that are set up in your instructions, and then you can just type those into a blank document and you will start writing. And you will want to write as if your audience has no idea what you're talking about. Okay. When you are getting support from your candidate support provider within your in-service center, or one of the things I did that I found helpful with this part right here is like I was getting caught up in, well, does anybody know that? Or does just an early childhood professional know that? And so what I did is I sent my national board draft to my best friend who at the time was a personal trainer and a stay-at-home mom and had 3 kids and went to school for business. And I said, hey, read this. And if something sounds like gibberish, highlight it. And so that's when I went back and anything that was highlighted, I knew I needed to be more clear about what it was. So that's just something that I did. but you want to write as if they have no idea what you're talking about. You're going to describe and analyze and reflect on everything. All right. And then we know that the world of education is all about some acronyms. But again, write as if they don't know what it is. Okay. So just write it out for the first time. If it's, I don't know I don't know. But let's say, for example, it's AAT. You would say the architecture of accomplished teaching in parentheses, AAT, and then you could write AAT. Now, granted, you're not necessarily going to cite the AAT, but you could again use some bold words from there. And then again, keep to the page limit. Okay, they will only read within that page limit. They will not even look at the other, so it will not be scored. All right. Any questions on the written commentary portion? And Natalie, I've got my chat backed up. So if there's something in there, you let me know.
You do have one question. It says, so when you say use your headings, is that for the final commentary or just for us as we are drafting?
So as you are drafting, that is going to be very useful for especially your mentors who might be helping you or reading or answering questions. Now, if you have space, you can leave it in there for your final draft, but if you don't have space, like it's okay. But it is helpful when you're getting organized with your written commentary. Great question. All right, so National Board certified teachers are folks who do a lot of self-reflection, okay? They are going to, man, oh man, oh man. I'm so sorry, y'all. Acknowledge where and how they can improve. They're going to be honest. Okay. Again, national board assessors are not looking for you to be perfect. They want to see somebody who can be honest about their weaknesses or their strengths, and then how can you better support your children anyway? Okay. So national boards is all about being an accomplished teacher. Are you actively going to try to be better than the norm, right? Are you going above and beyond than the norm? Are you consistently trying to show up and be better for your students? That is what assessors are looking for. Okay. How do you strive to be the best educator that you can be for the children that you serve? So reflect, 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 and you're writing about that in your written commentary. All right. Another form that you're going to submit is an instructional activity form. And again, you're going to type, you're going to download the form from that zip file and you're going to type directly into your brackets. Okay.
All in the zip file?
Yes. Yes. So when you go to the Candidate Support Center and you go to discipline and then developmental level, you will download the component 2 and it comes in the zip file with your instructions in all of your forms. So when you pull up this form, again, you will type directly into the brackets. You will number what activity it is. This is for science, so not everybody's is going to look like this, okay? But it will ask you to describe the unit or describe the activity. What did you do? What did your students do? And these forms, if you want to, you can just bullet, okay? What was the purpose of the activity? What did you want your students to learn? What on mine, it says, what were the unit goals? I bulleted, okay? What resources did you use and how were they used? Okay. I remember I felt kind of silly. Like I was like, I used chalk, right? I just wrote out chalk, right? But anything and everything that you used, you'll want to share that in this form as well. All right. So this instructional activities form, you will answer the props as they are. One of the things that I suggest doing is while you're teaching your unit, okay, remember you're going to capture and start saving all of the work for at least 5 students, okay, or 5 so that you can narrow it down later. But go ahead and keep you a running log of the things that you did within that instruction period. So for each child. Okay, so that will help you. So when you go back and you're like, oh, I'm going to choose Allison for this one, then I can go to my notes and say, oh, I remember when Allison wrote the letter A upside down. What did I do for it? Okay. Because if I don't remember that, but I remember what Natalie did, but Allison showed a lot more that I could write about, right? You're going to want to keep a running record, just a little journal of the decisions you made while you were teaching that unit to those students. All right. Well, and I don't know about you, but I'm a hoarder, but you're going to become a student work sample hoarder. Okay. Especially for those 5 students that you've chosen to just support your writing and your evidence and materials as well. And then your instructional activities can be a wide range of choices. Okay. But ultimately, what students do in or outside the classroom to contribute to learning, that can be an instructional activity.
Mm.
Okay. There is a form for that. All right. So student work samples form. Earlier I mentioned it in your written commentary, you're going to cite what student it came from and what sample it is. And so that's what this form is for. So you will choose, so in science, obviously looking at 2 different students. So you'll have a student A or a student B. And then was it activity 1, activity 2, or activity 3? So you will have a form for each activity for each student. Okay, so within what to submit, that submission at a glance, it will specify that you might have 6 forms of this. Okay, so make sure you know exactly how many are needed based on the amount of work samples you need to show for how many students you're showing for. All right. Some examples of what some work samples might look like. I know that I don't know if it's this morning or there's one this afternoon, but there are going to be some opportunities for an Atlas session. And Atlas is a resources that, again, your in-service center can set up for you. Unless I'm wrong, Natalie. But these are pulled straight from Atlas. Okay, so once you are interested and you get you an account, you can go and look at submissions from National Board Certified Teachers. Okay, so this is an example of student work. All right, so this student created a PowerPoint presentation based off of these vocabulary words. All right. Here's another student example, graphic organizer, where the student was to choose an animal or a type of whale, okay, and then to find out what they used or what they learned. And then another example here is they created a whale song based on what they learned about the whale. So those are just 3 examples of student work and what that can look like, and how you might showcase that. All right. So as far as student work samples go, most certificate areas work with 2 students. I know literacy we talked about, it was just 1. But you're going to want to choose samples that showcase the best of your ability to differentiate instruction. Okay, so all 3 of those you just saw were to meet the same standard, but they were of 3 different students, right? So one student they knew was very musically talented or needed to make up some movement, so they made a song. Whereas some used a graphic organizer, right? So you're going to use the same unit, but you're going to choose work samples that demonstrate how you adapt instruction within that unit for that child. Okay. The exceptions here are these certificate areas. Okay. So if you are exceptional needs or literacy, you're only working with that 1 student. So that's how that differs. You're not looking at 2, you're looking at the 1. If you're library media, you're looking at 2 individual students or 2 small groups of students. Okay. Music, you're focusing on a whole class, and counseling, you're featuring 3 students from a small group. So those are differences there, but majority are collecting for 2 students. So just when we did that activity, be mindful of how many students you're looking at and how many different work samples you need for each of them.
Hey, Allison,
Yes.
Denise May requested that you go back to the Atlas samples.
Oh, absolutely.
And then Monica said that the Atlas link from the opening presenter said it's for a group account. Do I just fill it out as best I can, or is there a group I should be joining that's already created?
So you will most likely be joining the group within your regional in-service center. So you would reach out to the regional in-service center director, and they will be the ones who will set up an Atlas account for you. All right, so this is one example from Atlas. Another one, and then this was another one. This was a PowerPoint presentation, so if you are submitting something like this, you can go up to 6 slides on a page, but you want to make sure that it is clear and legible to the eye of the assessor. So those are just examples. So once you get an Atlas account, you can even filter out what component you're looking for National Board. All right. If you have assessments to look at, some examples here, be mindful of how you differentiate assessments. I'm sorry. Do they need to be nonverbal? Are they drawings? Are they art? Are they projects? Are they presentations, models? Was it an essay that you had them? Was it a test? And so if the assessment is not written, you'll submit a summary, photograph or transcript of what that assessment looked like. Okay. Another thing on assessments is I would highly recommend having a teacher made one due to copyright laws, because if you're using a mandated curriculum, you're not going to be able to show a test from that mandated curriculum or assessment or whatever it is. So make sure it's teacher-based, that you can showcase that in your work samples. All right. And then informal classroom observations can also be used if you need to submit some assessments. And that can be something that you have transcribed as well. And then for music, you will be able to submit a video if we have any music friends. All right. This is one of the documents in your instructions that you will live by, right? Again, this is in between pages 10 to 13, depending on certificate areas. But this will help you stay organized. It will help you figure out what you need to submit and how long each item needs to be as far as page length. All right, any questions on what to submit? So you've got your forms, you've got your written commentary, and you've got your work samples. All right. So you've got what you need to submit. So let's look a little bit at the rubric. Okay. So national board components are scored level 1, 2, 3, or 4. Okay. So when you're looking at this chart, you see a level 4 could be a 3.75 to a 4.25. That is because when your assessor reads your component, you're going to have multiple assessors read one component. But they'll give it like a 4 plus or a 4 minus or just a flat 4. And so that's where those decimal points come into. And we are always striving to be a 4, right? So that wordage there is, we are going to be clear, we are going to be consistent, and we are going to be convincing. All right. So that is what an accomplished teacher is looking for. And then what that actually is written out and understood as is level 4 performance, okay, provides clear, consistent, convincing evidence that teachers successfully use knowledge of students to plan, implement, and unit the instruction to administer and interpret appropriate assessments, okay? So ultimately, you're following the national board process. You're writing all about the knowledge of your student that you choose or students that you choose, the planning that you went into, how you taught it, and then your reflection piece. And if you wrote it about it in your written commentary, you're going to mention it in your form, right? If you write it here, you write it there. If you write it there, you write it everywhere. All right. And so that's what that being clear and convincing looks like. And that clear again, it means that anybody can follow it and understand what you've written. Okay. The consistent is writing it everywhere, and then convincing, that's where you're going to back everything you write up with evidence. Okay. So I did this because this is what my students needed at the time, but like, how did you know that? Provide some evidence and examples. Okay. And that's going to showcase that level 4.
Allison,
Yes.
Amy Kirkland asked if you could recap that process.
The scoring process.
Mhm.
Okay.
Is that correct, Amy? The scoring process? I believe that's what she's referring
Okay.
to.
So you will have multiple readers.
No, no,
Oh,
the NBCT process.
oh, the NBC process. Okay, so we can go back and show a visual after we're done if we have time. But you've got the knowledge. So it's a continuous circle. You've got knowledge, planning, instruction, and reflection. So you've got to know your students, you've got to plan instruction for those students, you've got to teach that instruction, and then you've got to reflect on what you did and was it effective? And if it wasn't, how do you know that? Or if it was, how do you know that? And what do you need to do now? So it just continues to go around. All right, so what can you do right this second? What is your 4-step plan? Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is read through your entire component 2 instructions. Okay, highlight all the things, highlight what you need to do, highlight what you need to submit, highlight the standards that you need to do, that you need to incorporate. And then you're going to go back and you're going to read those standards, right? And you're going to highlight those. Okay, you're going to highlight every required piece of component 2, and then the evidence and the task that you need to also be able to showcase. Okay. And then you're going to start thinking. I know that maybe you haven't met your students yet, but I imagine some national board folks who you're accomplished teachers, right? And you go above and beyond, right? When they show up at meet and greet, you're going to be like, ooh, ding, 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 I might showcase you. Okay. So you'll start thinking through um, your students once you start meeting them, or start thinking about upcoming units, like maybe some units you teach in October. And when you start thinking through what you teach, how you teach it, and then as you learn your students, you might showcase that unit. So go ahead and you can start thinking about that. That you teach within the first semester. And then once you've got your students, start collecting evidence on them, right? How do you know them? How did you get to know them? What do they need? How do you know they need that? And then start collecting evidence, work samples. Another thing that I actually didn't plan to mention, but I need to mention is before you start collecting work samples, you need to get a release form for all of your students in your classes. Okay, and I can show anybody who needs to do that. It's on the Candidate Center on the National Board website, but you'll want a release form because you will be collecting student evidence and submitting that. So you'll want a signed copy of every child for every child in your classroom. All right, so you want to read, you want to highlight, you want to think through what units you are teaching, what might be good to showcase, and then start collecting evidence. All right, that was a lot unpacked. So what questions do you have? What thoughts came up? What do you need me to show you how to access? We've got about 11 minutes here, and this is your time. So you ask away.
My co-teacher, my music teacher, and I are both doing national boards this year, as are two of the fifth grade teachers at our school. Is there a way that we can, like, the parents don't have to sign 4 separate forms? They could sign one form, one release form. Like, is there a way for us to do, like, a combined, this is for Miss Gray and Miss Walker? Um,
So I'm actually going to back out of this real fast and go to um, the candidate center and let's look and see if you can.
Because I
My
didn't see anything about that.
my hesitancy is I
Hey,
don't know if it specifies. Oh, go ahead.
can you hear me? I just put it in chat. We had five of us at my school this last year that were all working on it, and we all had to do separate forms. And we have three or four already who are national board certified, and they were like, and we have a strong process in Huntsville, a strong
But
group.
like, are
So,
y'all teaching? My question though is like, are y'all teaching all the same students? Like, are any of y'all teaching the
yes,
whole school?
I'm the counselor. So, yeah, I
Oh,
have
okay, yeah.
500
So you're
kids. So,
teaching the whole
yeah.
school.
Oh, yeah. And the reading
Oh,
coach and everybody. I mean, and a lot of
okay.
them, like the gifted teacher and everything. So, yeah, we all were seeing the whole school.
Yeah.
Um, so I wouldn't recommend it.
That's why
Um,
I wanted to pull it up because it does specify
yeah,
per teacher.
I've already
So
done two components. So,
yeah, so you will want to have each of them done.
and
Okay.
some of the teachers, we all did different colors. I'll recommend we did different
Oh,
colors. Like that's a copy it on a piece of. That's just a tip we learned. Like I just stuck with white, and then the gifted teacher did yellow, and the reading coach did pink, and that was one thing. So they knew, and like somebody put a sticker on theirs, just because we're all going to keep them. So
Yeah, that's a great idea.
sorry about in.
No, that was perfect. Thank you,
no,
Sharon.
I thank you. It's
That's what
helpful
we're here for.
because
Hey,
because we're teaching groups.
Allison, there's a question in the chat. It's just to clarify, we can go ahead and start completing our components and turn them in the spring when the scholarship is released.
So, okay, so as far as, and you know what, I'm going to go back to the National Board website so I can show y'all this too. As far as the portfolio entries and how you submit that, so this is a big graphic that you might want to consider saving. Okay, so you've got the registration window, but it does not close until February 28th of next year. Okay, so you've got until that long to actually decide okay, 100% I'm going to submit components 2 and 3. Or 100% I thought I was going to do 2, 3, and 4, but I all of a sudden just found out I'm pregnant and I can only do one right now, right? So you've got until February 28th to actually submit your money or scholarship funding to commit to those components. And then your e-portfolio submission window will open April 1 through June 15th. So you can do this work, and then that is when you will actually submit your portfolios once that window opens. So does that answer your question?
Hello.
Okay, we have another question. What is the difference between the adult and student release form?
Hmm, great question. So let's go back. Um, let's see here. Do, 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 do. So, as a candidate support provider, I like to make sure I'm telling you the right things, and I always go back to the website. So that's why I'm doing this. Okay. Um, Another thing I can tell you is if you ever have questions, national boards, you can go up here to contact and submit a question online, or you can straight up call them at 1-800-22-TEACH and ask them questions. And they have people there who just answer the phone and answer questions or live chat. Okay. So as far as adult release form and student release form, let's see if there's a difference here. So student release, I am a participant of the school. Well, it's actually a letter to the parent and guardian. Oh, so here might be an example. Let's say if you are showcasing your students, okay, your student release form is here. But let's pretend that you, like I might see this more in component 3. If I'm co-teaching a lesson with an adult, that's when you would use an adult release form. Okay. So in component 2, you were just showcasing student work. So you're going to use a student release form. But if you're ever showcasing adult work, okay, or you're co-teaching or doing anything like that might be where you do a release form. So for example, if I'm teaching a pre-K classroom and I have a co-teacher in there and I'm showcasing small groups and she's in the video, like she's going to need to fill out an adult release form. Okay, what else? This is good.
A state scholarship can purchase components now. Is that correct?
So, if you receive the scholarship, there is a scholarship session this afternoon. So be sure to attend that. But typically in the past, the funding does not get released until spring. So like January, February. So ultimately just hold tight. But when that funding shows up, you can go ahead and purchase what components you're going to submit. But again, I would highly recommend until at least January or 1st of February before you commit, just because you don't know what's going to happen yet this fall, or the type of students you're going to have, or the class you're going to have, or what you're teaching or whatnot. But yes, once that funding is there, you can submit it for payment because that window has opened. Any other questions?
I work with student interns. And so, a lot of times when I'm differentiating, I'm doing like collaborative small groups, and I'm working with a group, and the intern is working with a group. Um, can I showcase that in this component?
Great question. So, component two is your showcasing, or your evidence is going to come from the student work. So, not necessarily like intern work, but on your form and in your written commentary, you could talk about how maybe your intern provided additional support in this way, or you co-taught an additional lesson in this way, but you're not necessarily going to showcase her work. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, I did want to leave y'all with my email address. We are still here for a couple more minutes, but if you have any questions whatsoever, please email me. If you need the slide deck like right this second or this afternoon, email me and I'll go ahead and send it out. So you don't have to wait until everything gets updated. And don't you love the AI picture? I was like, dress me up. But yeah, so thank you so much. We're still here if you need me or have any questions. Natalie, did you need to add anything?
The only thing I have to add, thank you for being here. And of course, huge kudos to Allison for all the work that she put into this presentation. I learned a ton. I am not an MBCT and I'm a new RIC director. So just the information that I've learned today has been enormous. So thank you, Allison. It was great. I have posted the 2026 virtual day attendance form. You'll have to complete that at the end of every session if you're going to get your Power School credit. Also, if you have not registered in Power School, we can't give you Power School credit. So be sure you have registered in Power School and complete the attendance form. And I will drop the Power School registration link in there in just a second. I'll switch back over to that. But thank you.
Yes, thank y'all so much. And I believe if you walk down the hallway, I'm just teasing, it's lunchtime. But yeah, thank y'all so much. Please reach out if you need anything. And if you're in Region 4 in Service Center, University of Alabama or West Alabama, that's me.
And every region has groups of teachers that get together almost monthly to discuss NBCT. So every one of our regional in-service centers has that. Reach out to them. They'll put you in contact. I know in Region 1, we have a North and a South group because we're about a 2-hour drive between our northern and southern districts. So we have two cohorts going, and this year we've actually done different dates so that we can overlap and people can go back and forth if they need to. So every in-service center has that. So reach out to them.
Yes.
And if you are a retired MBCT, shoot me an email. I need a specialist. All right. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you.
I will leave this on for about 5 more minutes and then I'll cut our session off.
Great. Thanks, Natalie.
Hey, I have a quick question.
Mhm.
So I am new to my district, and so I just got my district email yesterday, and my Power Schools is access is not yet working. So can I go back in later and register in Power Schools?
So I can answer that for you. Have you been a teacher before in Power School?
Yes, I was in Huntsville City, now in Madison City.
So you can still go in and log into your Power School True North account with that the email that you use to register with.
Okay.
So think of your True North Power School account as your personal professional learning transcript. It
Okay.
doesn't matter where you go, you can always log into it. Now, at some point, your district is going to have to go let you go, and your other district's going to go pick you up, but you
Mhm.
always have access to it.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Excuse me, I have one more question. I know I've been asking questions. So do I've registered for Power School one time, so I don't have to register after every drill, correct? Okay, just wanted to make sure.
But you do have to sign in after every drill. So what will
Yes, I
happen?
did. I just did
Perfect.
the attendance for this drill, and I do it for each one. Okay, so wanted to make sure I have to do a Power School registration each time.
That's
Thank you
correct.
so much.
You're welcome.
Taylor, I'm going back up. I don't know if you're still here, but I see your message about a writing unit. If you're still here, will you pop off mute and share a little bit more about what you're asking there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm like my I'm having my Elmo using you guys. My mentor previously, she's at district level now, but she suggested because I'm first grade that having a writing unit would give me more reflective pieces because when I get to component 4, it's so many pieces that I could write more and elaborate more probably and differentiate more with a writing unit.
So my first question is, what certificate area are you in?
Literacy.
Okay, so you actually have to present a
That's what
writing
I
unit.
thought. That's what I was making sure. Okay. Because
Yes.
like everyone was talking about their different ones, and I was just trying to make sure. I know that's a little confusing, but I was
Yes.
just trying to make sure and reiterate that that was okay.
Yeah, I mean, dive into your certificate instructions for component 2, but it will specify the writing unit that has to be taught for C2. So yeah, you're right on track.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm so glad that's what, yeah. Glad you could figure it out, girl. You're working on so many devices, it makes it hard. Honey, you're talking, I can't hear you.
Apparently, I don't have a microphone on my computer either because that's what I was thinking I was talking through. And so I had to unmute my phone. So I had to use my phone for sound
Mhm.
and mic. Yeah. That's not
Can
good.
you hear me now? Is this working?
Yes.
Yes, I heard you, Latoya. Wonderful.
Okay.
Clarissa, did you need something?
Okay, Lord, have mercy.
Um, can you hear me now?
Yes, Clarissa, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. I realized that I had to enable access to the microphone. I apparently didn't do that, so sorry. I was just wondering how we'll be able to access this slideshow and the Padlet that you're going to make for us.
Yes, Natalie has dropped the link to the program in the chat, so it will be uploaded there. But if you also want to email me, like if you need it before the end of the day today, like my email's up on the screen, you can email me and I can send it to you.
Okay, thank you so much.
But yes, Natalie just posted it again, I believe, in the chat there for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Oh, Natalie, I just realized we had till 11:55, not 45. My apologies.
I think we're taking all the time with questions anyway, so this is working out perfect.
Okay, good.
Yeah, this is good.
Clarify really quickly. I'm sorry. Whenever I click on the Power School link, it just says go to my course. So if I'm already registered there, I know I heard someone earlier say you don't have to register again for it, but you do have to log in after each session. Is that what I heard her say?
You have to do the Google login. I've
Okay.
put it
So you
as
do
2026 virtual day attendance. That's just saying that at the end of each section, it's saying, hey, I did attend this session.
perfect. Okay. So I don't have to click on the
No,
564755 every
no.
time. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Hey, this is Clarissa again. I'm sorry for bothering y'all about this, but this may be something that you don't know about, but there's something about this Atlas. I don't even know what that is. And so I didn't sign up for anything with Atlas because I didn't really know that had to do with that. I'm not sure what it is.
Yes, so it is a great resource that your regional in-service center can set up an account for you. And so the examples of the student work samples that I showed earlier in the presentations, those came from Atlas. So if you
Oh, okay.
get into Atlas, you can search by National Board Certification and components, or even the core props, and you can see examples of work that was submitted to just kind of get your ideas going.
Okay, because when I went to the page to fill out the form, it asked me all these questions about the facilitator name and all this. And I was like, oh, I don't know who that would be.
Are
So
you
it's
talking about
not.
the attendance form?
No, ma'am. They sent in the welcome, they gave us a link to the Atlas, and you could click on that link. And I think I might have misunderstood. I guess maybe was it supposed to be for the regional managers to fill out, and you could just
So
sign up.
if I were you, I would reach out to your RIC director. I can't answer the question because as a RIC director, I actually have a mentor lead that's over creating those Atlas accounts. I don't actually
Okay.
create them. So I would forward your information to them and they would handle it. So I can't really answer that question, but do reach out to your RIC director. And if I'm her, send me your email and then I'll figure this out after this session.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Natalie, do you have the link to the region in service?
Yes, and
Okay.
this was I posted it earlier. I think I
Yeah,
should
I
have
know you did.
in the next one I need to tab some things,
I know. That was perfect.
yeah, that's the list of the ERIC directors, and if you're not sure, it'll show a map and you can find it. And if you're geographically challenged like me, I usually say, okay, point to where you live, and then I
I know.
where it is. If you're north, I know you. If you're south, I'm totally bad. I should have paid more attention in Alabama history.
Or
Totally
JC and
understand.
he get you.
I got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, so it is 11:55. So unless we have any other questions coming through right now, I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. And again, thank you, and thank you, Allison, and all of you that participated. We appreciate your time. Good
Thank
luck
you.
on this journey.
Yes,
I
you
wish
got
I
this.
had I wish I had gone through this journey before.
Not too late.
I'm really close to retirement, so I don't know if I'm going to go through the journey, but I do wish that I had done it before. So, all right, y'all have a blessed day.
You too.